I didn't speak for 30 years. Not really. Not the kind of speaking that matters. The kind that fills your chest, pushes air past your throat, and risks being heard. You learn in prison that silence keeps you alive. Not from other inmates. That's what most people think. But from yourself. If you stop talking, you stop remembering. If you stop remembering, you can survive the day without collapsing under it. I was 22 when they locked the cell door behind me. 22, and guilty of murder, according to the court. Guilty of killing the only woman I ever loved. Her name was Maya, and they said I buried her under a footbridge in Brighton. They said I hit her during an argument, that we'd fought in the kitchen, broken glass, blood on the tile, that I snapped, dragged her limp body to the car, and dumped her in the woods. They even said they found traces of her blood in my trunk. A streak on the rear bumper, a partial fingerprint on the shovel. I told them the truth. I told them, I didn't kill Maya. I didn't even see her that day, but the jury didn't care. Neither did the prosecutor. They didn't need a motive. They just needed a picture of me looking like the kind of man who'd snap. And I looked it. I was poor. From the wrong part of town. My mother cleaned houses. My father vanished when I was 9. I had a record, petty theft, school fights. That one time I got arrested for resisting an officer who grabbed me too hard outside a corner store. So when Maya disappeared, when they found her blood but not her body, when the town was grieving and someone had to hang, they chose me. I still remember the headline the next day. Brighton man arrested in girlfriend's disappearance. Police suspect foul play. Didn't take long for suspect to become killer. By the time the trial started, they were already calling her a victim, and me, the confessed monster. I never confessed. But that didn't matter. They had a neighbor say they heard screams. They had an old voicemail where I yelled at her. They had my silence. They had my fear. And then they had 30 years of my life. Prison is a place where time doesn't move, it settles, like ash after a fire. Days don't pass, they pile. And you start forgetting the sound of certain words, words like freedom or Maya. I stopped saying her name after year 5, stopped thinking it after year 10. I took a job in the library. I read everything I could. I taught myself to cook in the mess hall. I helped men get their GEDs. And I never mentioned her again. Not until this morning, the day it happened, the day Maya disappeared. I remembered 2 things with perfect clarity. 1, the shoes she wore when she left my apartment. 2, the note on my kitchen counter. The shoes were yellow. Bright, sunflower yellow with a black stripe across the heel. She said they made her feel brave. The note said, I need space. Don't. Come looking. It wasn't signed, but I knew her handwriting. I'd seen her form her letters 100 times while journaling, doodling, filling out forms. That note was my only alibi, and the court said I wrote it myself. I didn't. I couldn't have. I was at work the entire day she vanished. Loading trucks. Clocked in. Logged in. Signed out for lunch. But somehow the only thing the police wanted to know was why she left and why I didn't report it sooner. Because she'd left before. We argued. We cooled off. She always came back until she didn't. They said they found a torn piece of her jacket in the forest. They said a local dog found a blood-stained scarf. They never found a body. But that didn't stop them. Presumed dead, the judge said. Cause of death, blunt force trauma, motive, domestic dispute. No one asked me about our plans to move. No one found the deposit slip for our new apartment. No one cared about the concert tickets she bought for my birthday 2 weeks later because dead women don't buy tickets and killers don't get birthdays. I told myself for years that she had to be dead because the alternative, that she vanished on purpose, was worse than death. I loved her, and she left me to rot. That's the thought that hit me today like a freight train in slow motion, because this morning, a man in a suit, a man I'd never seen before, walked into the prison visitor's room with eyes like searchlights and a folder under his arm. "Mr. Brooks," he said, "my name is Daniel Rourke. I'm with the state attorney's office. I thought maybe he wanted me to testify in someone else's trial. That happens sometimes. Old inmates get dragged out for old cases. Then he said, "We need to talk about Maya Kessler." It's been 30 years. I haven't heard her name spoken out loud in 29 of them. I felt something in my chest crack open, like a rib I forgot had broken. "What about her?" I asked, and he paused, like he wasn't sure I could handle the answer. "She's alive," he said, and the world stopped spinning. At first I thought I misheard, then I thought it was some kind of sick trick, and then he opened the folder and showed me a photo. She was older. Her hair had silver strands. But those eyes? I knew those eyes like the back of my hand. It was her. It was Maya. The same Maya who vanished the day after our fight. The same Maya who never came home. The same Maya I was convicted of murdering. "She turned up in a hospital 3 towns over last week," Rourke said. "Admitted under a false name, malnourished, paranoid, said someone was trying to kill her. Then she confessed." "Confessed what?" I asked. "That she faked her death." The next hour was a blur. I couldn't process all of it. I still can't. But what I remember is this. She'd staged the scene. The blood, the scarf, the torn jacket. She had help. Someone forged the note. Someone planted the evidence. But it wasn't me. She'd wanted to escape something. Someone. She hadn't said who. Rourke didn't give me details. All I know is that the woman I loved walked out of my life and watched me burn. She watched me rot, behind bars, for 30 years. "Why now?" I whispered. "She's willing to testify," Rourke said. "She wants to clear your name." I couldn't breathe. Clear my name? What name? The one I lost? The one they smeared across tabloids and TV? Screens like blood on a wall? "She'll be in court next week," he added. "She's agreed to appear." That's when I stood up. It was the first time I stood without my cane in 2 years. I looked at him and said, "Then I want to be there." Now I'm lying in my bunk, staring at the ceiling, and all I can think is this. What kind of person lets someone else take the fall for their death? What kind of person disappears and lets the world believe they were murdered? And what kind of man was I that she'd rather vanish than stay? There's one more thing I haven't told anyone, not even Rourke. A week before she disappeared, Maya told me something that shook me to my core. "I think someone's watching me," she whispered as we lay in bed. "Someone I knew before you." I asked who. She didn't answer. Just held me, tighter. I forgot about that until today, but now it's screaming inside my skull. Because maybe this story isn't just about betrayal. Maybe it's about someone else. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a minute. The cell was the same, cold, quiet, cramped, but something had shifted. It was like a light had cracked through the concrete, or a ghost had moved in. I kept thinking about that photograph Rourke showed me. Her face, Maya's face, older, tired, but still hers. The way her eyes looked like they hadn't stopped running. If I'd seen her walking down the street, I might not have recognized her. But sitting in that photo, arms clutched around her knees, pale hospital gown, hair tucked behind her ear. It was her. The woman I once believed I'd marry. The woman I buried in my mind just to stay sane. The woman I went to prison for, alive. The next 5 days crawled. They moved me out of general population and into protective custody. For safety, they said, though I suspected they were just trying to keep me away from press or questions. But I didn't care. For the first time in 30 years, I had a reason to count the hours. I had something to lose and something to face. The courtroom looked smaller than I remembered. Funny how a room can hold so much pain and still feel like a shoebox. It smelled like disinfectant and dust. There were new faces on the security team, but the old wooden benches hadn't changed. I took my seat at the defense table, shackled at the wrist and ankle, and felt the old weight settle in my stomach. This was where they convicted me. This was where they erased my name. Now I was back. Not for a retrial, not yet, but for a hearing. A confession hearing, and she was going to walk through that door. The crowd was mostly press, some students, some faces I half recognized from the old neighborhood, older now, wearing grief in their posture like heavy coats. But I didn't care about them. I only had eyes for the door. It opened, and time froze. She didn't look like a ghost. She looked real, solid, hesitant but there. Her hair was shorter than it used to be, shoulder length, streaked with gray. Her clothes were plain, her shoes were black, not yellow, no makeup, no jewelry, but her eyes? Still Maya, still the same mix of fire and caution that first pulled me in when we were 19 and foolish. She walked to the witness stand. She sat, and when she raised her right hand to swear the oath, it trembled. The judge asked if she was ready. Maya looked at me, really looked for the first time in 30 years, and nodded. I am. Her voice was rough, older, but steady. My name is Maya Kessler. I disappeared in April of 1995. I staged that disappearance. I left on purpose. And I let the world believe I was dead. Silence. The judge leaned forward. Miss Kessler, are you saying the defendant did not murder you? She closed her eyes, then opened them again. Yes, Elijah Brooks is innocent. He didn't kill me. He never laid a hand on me. I couldn't breathe, even though I'd waited 30 years to hear it, even though I knew it now had to be true. Something in my chest collapsed, not with relief. Not exactly, but with something more brutal, more hollow. Grief, maybe, not for her. For me, for the man I could have been if this had never happened. The prosecution asked the obvious question. Why? Why fake your death? Why vanish? Why let someone else suffer for it? Maya lowered her head. Then she told the story. It started before me. Back when she was still a teenager, she'd dated a man named Vincent Malley. Older, wealthy, connected, dangerous. He'd been charming at first. Flowers, notes, big dreams. But behind closed doors, he was violent, possessive, controlling. She tried to leave him 3 times. The 3rd time, he broke her ribs and told her if she ever left again, he'd bury her where no one would find her. That's when she met me. I was a dumb warehouse kid with a mouth and a laugh and nothing to lose. I thought I was saving her. Maybe I was. Until she got a letter, 6 months into us living together. It didn't say much. Just, I see you. It had no return address. I panicked, she said on the stand. I told Elijah someone from my past was watching me. He didn't ask questions, bless him. He just said he'd keep me safe. But I knew the only way to disappear was to disappear completely. So she planned it. She cut her arm just enough for blood, smeared it in the car, on the bumper, ripped her jacket, left the scarf. She even had a friend from school, someone I'd never met, write the note pretending to be me. Why? Not just tell the police? The prosecutor asked. She laughed. A broken, bitter laugh. Because he was the police. Vincent's brother worked in the department. I didn't know who I could trust. And why didn't she come back once Vincent died? Why let me sit in prison? For decades. I was scared, she said, tears falling now. Then ashamed. And then, I just didn't know how. The lie had gotten too big. I told myself maybe he'd get parole. Maybe he'd be okay. Maybe I'd only destroyed most of his life, not all of it. She looked directly at me again. I was wrong. The judge asked if she had proof. She pulled out an old box, sealed records, letters, a forged ID, photos of her in another town, another name. It was enough. More than enough to cast doubt. Enough for the judge to order an immediate review of the conviction. Enough to unshackle my wrists for the first time in court. Didn't say anything as I stood. Didn't move toward her. Didn't scream. Didn't ask the million questions clawing at my throat. I just walked past her, past the woman I once swore I'd love forever, and let the door close behind me. They released me that afternoon. No parade. No apology. Just a gray hoodie and a plastic bag with my old belongings from the day I went in. Wallet.keys, a faded photo of Maya and me in a photo booth from Coney Island. I'd kept it folded in my wallet for 30 years. When I unfolded it, I noticed something I never had before. In the corner of the photo, in the reflection of the mirror behind us, was a man. Tall, watching. I stared at it for a long time. Then, I put it back in the bag. Rourke met me outside the gates. "You okay?" he asked. I laughed. It felt foreign in my throat. Dry. "No," he nodded. "You want to ride somewhere?" Not yet. He didn't press. Just handed me a phone. Maya left a number. "If you ever want to talk." I stared at it, then turned it off. I walked for hours, through streets that used to be mine, but now felt like someone else's dream. The city had changed. People had changed. But some things remained the same. The air still smelled like wet concrete. The trains still screeched, the same, and my memories still hurt like hell. That night, I rented a room with the help of a halfway program, clean bed, tiny window, the first door that locked from the inside that I'd had in decades. I sat on the edge of the mattress and looked at my hands. 30 years. A whole life. Gone. And she was back. Alive. Free. And sorry. But I didn't know if sorry could cover this kind of silence. I kept asking myself the same question. Was she a victim or just another kind of monster? I wanted to scream, to cry, to hold her, to curse her. Instead, I sat there until morning, letting the light change the color of the walls, and then, as the sun rose, I finally whispered her name, Maya, and for the first time in 30 years, I meant it without hate. It took me 3 weeks to call her. I kept the number Rourke gave me tucked into my pocket like a blade, dangerous, too sharp to hold for long. Every day I walked past payphones and burner stores, knowing I could press those digits into life. But I didn't. Not yet. Because I didn't know what I'd say, because I didn't know what she'd say. Because when you bury someone for 30 years, it's hard to let them come back to life. The world moved on without me. I stepped into an apartment paid for by the state's wrongful conviction board, a 2-room shoebox with chipped paint and a mattress wrapped in plastic. I had to learn how to work a smartphone. I burned pasta 3 times. I stared at ATMs like they were spaceships. No one taught me how to be free. The case made headlines again. Not just in Brighton. National. Murder victim returns. Innocent man released after 30 years. Twist in cold case shocks legal system. She let him take the fall. Now she wants forgiveness. Some people called me a hero. Others called her a monster. Neither label fit. I was just a man who'd survived. She was just a woman who ran. On day 22, I picked up the phone. I didn't think. I just called. 1 ring. 2. Hello? Her voice. Same tone, same breathy H at the start. And I froze. Elijah? Yes. Silence. I didn't think you'd call, she said. I didn't think I would either. Another silence. Not heavy, just fragile. Like speaking too loud might shatter it. Are you okay? She asked. No, but I'm alive, she laughed. Or tried to. That makes 2 of us. We met the next day. A park bench. Public. Neutral. Mid-afternoon. She brought coffee. I didn't touch mine. We sat side by side for 5 minutes before anyone said a word. Birds chirped. Kids screamed in the distance. A squirrel climbed a trash can and found nothing. You look different, she said. So do you. She tucked her hands under her legs, a nervous habit I remembered from our early years. I don't know where to start, she said. Start anywhere. She told me the whole truth that day. The part she didn't say in court? Yes, Vincent Malley had hurt her. Yes, she feared he'd kill her. But the day she vanished, it wasn't fear that drove her. It was a phone call. A man called my work, said. He had photos of me, of you, said I had one chance to disappear or he'd send them to your mother. I blinked. My mother died before I was convicted. I didn't know that. She swallowed. I thought if I left, if I vanished, maybe, you'd be safe. I didn't plan for you to be blamed. I didn't plan anything right. I don't hate you, I said. She looked at me, startled. But I don't know how to forgive you either. She nodded. That's fair. I don't know who you are now. I don't either, she whispered. We talked until the sun dipped low. At some point, she handed me an envelope. Inside, a photo. The two of us on the roof of my old apartment, years ago. Laughing. Wrapped in one blanket. She'd kept it all this time. I never stopped loving you, she said, and it broke me. We didn't hug, we didn't touch. Just sat there. Two ghosts in borrowed time. Before we parted, I asked the question that had haunted me since the courtroom. Why now? Why come back? She didn't flinch. Because I had a dream. You were drowning and I was holding the rope, and when I woke up I couldn't breathe. The next weeks were strange. I had therapy sessions arranged by the state. I met with lawyers. About compensation, money for every year they took. 30 years, the advocate said. At the current rate, that's over $2 million. I laughed. They think freedom comes with a price tag. But you can't buy back your 20s, or your 30s, or the kids I never had, the man I never became. You can't buy forgiveness either. Maya called once a week. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we sat in silence on the line. She never asked for absolution. She just showed up, in words, in apologies, in time. Then one day, she knocked on my door. In her hands, a small box. Inside, the yellow shoes, sunflower yellow, black stripe, the ones she wore the last time I saw her alive. I kept them, she said, to remind myself what I destroyed. I didn't cry. I just took the box and placed it beside my bed. That night I wrote a letter, to myself, to her, to the past, and I walked it down to the river where we used to sit in college, drinking cheap coffee and pretending we'd change the world. I burned the letter, watched the smoke twist into the air, carrying everything I never said. Here's what it said. I don't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I also don't hate you. I hate what happened, what we lost. I was innocent, and so were you, in the beginning. Now we're just survivors, and survival isn't clean. It's jagged and raw and unfair, but maybe, somehow, it's still enough. 6 months later, they cleared my record, wiped it clean. The DA apologized on camera. The judge who sentenced me sent a letter. Typed, formal, full of regret. I didn't respond, because it was never just about the sentence. It was about the 30 birthdays in a gray cell, the laughter I stopped believing in, the trust that turned to rust in my chest. Maya left town shortly after. She said she needed to start over. I understood. Before she left, she handed me one final note. No envelope, just paper. If you ever want to find me, I'll be where the tide pulls the light back in. I don't know what that means, but maybe someday I will. I'm 52 now. I live near the water. Work part-time at a bookstore. Talk to kids from the community center about choices and time and the price of silence. They ask if I'm angry. I tell them anger is easy. It's healing that takes everything you've got. Some nights I dream of the trial, but in the dream, she's sitting beside me at the defense table whispering, "Tell them the truth." And I do, and they listen, and I wake up crying. But most mornings now I wake up and make coffee, and I put on my shoes, and I walk, free.